Hello, you gorgeous creeps. You're watching Laketoria Nights. Here we talk about movies, TV shows, video games, and everything in between. I'm Kevin, joined by CJ and Andy. Go ahead and greet the people, guys.
What's up, everybody?
What's up, everybody?
We also have a returning guest. I believe this is her third recorded time on the show. Her temperament is that of a wild honey badger. She is the first lady of Laketoria. Jess, say hello to everybody.
Hi.
That was a pretty good intro, Kevin.
Yeah, thank you, yes.
I gotta give you props when it's due.
Yeah, alright, awesome. So, today, with Avengers Infinity War around the corner, we have to talk about the MCU. This movie is nearly 10 years in the making, or maybe a little bit more. I'm not gonna lie, I'm a little hyped about the movie also. In previous shows, we did talk about the MCU, but today we're dedicating 2 segments to the MCU. The first part will be about the MCU itself, and the second part will be the Infinity War. So, before we get started, shameless plug. Please hit the like and subscribe button. It gives me justification for my life. Just comment something, anything. There's like 10 of you out there. Tell me I'm good, please. Okay. All right. Okay.
I think you're good, Kevin.
No, thank you for that. Thank you. So, I guess moving on, we're going on to the MCU talk in general. I guess I'll just start with my first question. I realize that when we do talk about the MCU, we have nothing but good things to talk about. So, I guess this first question, we'll just get all how awesome they are out of the way right now. What is it about the MCU that makes the franchise so successful? I'll start with you, CJ.
I think their way of telling stories and connecting all of the movies. You don't find many plot holes, and with having about 18 movies roughly and TV series to go with it, you'd think you'd find a lot of continuity issues, but you really don't. They run a really tight ship, and I think that makes for very good storytelling on their part, and I think that's what brings them so much success.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense to me. So it's just basically the continuity. They really care about that, and they examine that, and they make sure it all stays slick within every movie that they write.
Yeah, and you can tell also that the actors give a shit about the roles that they're playing.
I guess that's true also. Do you agree with that, Andy? Jess? Any disagreements? Anything to add on to that?
Jess, do you have
nothing
anything?
From me. No, that's basically it.
All right, so I will say that I have a slightly different take. I think MCU has been a great success for Marvel, but I do want to point out that I feel like their success is kind of a double-edged sword. For the most part, a lot of the movies break down into what a lot of people call the Marvel formula.
Okay.
Now, just because of how successful the movies have been, wherein most of the movies follow the hero's journey, and so it does create some slightly predictable outcomes, even for people who may not be familiar with the actual events that take place in the comics that the movies are based on. And so it's really, really good for attracting a casual audience, because you're going to get super high quality. Like CJ said, they have a great continuity officer keeping all of that stuff in check. The actors really care about what they're doing. They put a lot of effort into it. But while it does attract a casual audience, there is some backlash amongst more of the comic book reading community about Marvel's use of the same story structure for most of their movies. I think that's both their greatest achievement and also potentially their biggest risk of tripping up, I suppose.
So when you say that I have heard about the Marvel formula and what they're doing. So do you know what the major complaints that the comic book fans have been complaining about? Or is it just
let's put it this way. The basic structure of a lot of movies, MCU movies I should say, is that protagonist is down on their luck. They're discovered to have some sort of power, or they're given some sort of power. You meet the antagonist, they have a couple fights, the protagonist somehow overcomes these insurmountable odds and still wins the day. A lot of the movies, if you think about it, follow that formula, which in Marvel's defense, that is quintessentially the hero's journey. I think that's where a lot of the complaints are coming from, but I also think it's their greatest strength.
I think for those people complaining about it, in the same token, the formula that's being used for Marvel movies is a shortened version of the same formula being used in a comic.
Oh, I agree. And it's not even necessarily Marvel movies that are using the Marvel formula. There are plenty of movies that have the plotline follow the hero's journey. It's just very noticeable when I'd say, roughly 85 to 90% of the movies very, very similarly follow that structure almost to a T. I'm not saying it's a bad thing. Personally, I can take it or leave it. I think it's great for Marvel because it's allowing them to attract new fans into the genre. Mm-hmm. It's definitely what's made the movies so popular. But I think amongst more of the hardcore fans, I feel like because it's something that they've seen in the comics, that's what is leading to that being sort of a detractor for them, and probably unreasonably so.
Yeah, I feel like it's unreasonable. I understand people wanting more original content and original stories, and maybe more 2-3 part type movies to stretch out a story, and even story that may be more truer to continuity, like taking like Logan, for example, and how it took pieces of Wolverine's story from different arcs, but didn't give you everything you wanted from like an Old Man Logan story. But when it comes to licensing and finances, you can't always have the perfect scenario.
Exactly.
And I think Marvel has found a way to give you the closest thing to a perfect scenario that you can get in a cinematic universe.
I would definitely agree with that on all points. So then moving on, I'll move on to my next question, which is, I'll start with you, Jess. What movie would you have taken out of the universe? So out of all the movies leading up to Infinity War, which 1, 2, or 3 movies would you want removed from the universe altogether?
Okay.
I'm really going to laugh if we're all unanimous, by the way.
So I have to admit that there was, 2 that I skipped?
Mm-hmm.
And my answer is completely biased because of watching with CJ.
Okay.
But it would probably have to be, I guess, Hulk and Iron Man 3, which are the 2 I skipped, because he said it didn't really tie in with the end goal anyway. So I feel like if it doesn't fully tie in, then what's the point of them?
Well, hold on. To piggyback on what Jess just said, we skipped Hulk, Iron Man 3, and Thor 2.
Oh, and Thor 2, I forgot about that one.
Now,
I also forgot about
my reasoning
but
for
that's
skipping,
for different reasons.
My reasoning for skipping Hulk wasn't because Hulk was a bad movie. It's because Hulk is a necessary movie that explains the Incredible Hulk, but if anyone coming into the Marvel Universe, you can explain off the Incredible Hulk in about 5 sentences. You don't really need a movie for it. But I get why they have a
Man gets
movie.
angry, turns green.
Exactly.
Smash stuff.
And Iron Man 3 and Thor 2 just suck, and I didn't want to watch them again. So that's why we skipped those.
Okay. Are those the movies so the movies that you had just skipped, are those movies you'd have removed completely from the universe?
I'd remove Iron Man 3 completely from the universe.
But you would keep Thor Dark World.
Thor Dark World had some interesting stuff in the way of like Thor's story. It was just poorly executed in the way of like watching it. But like there's parts of Thor that I could pick out that translate into like what you see in Thor Ragnarok. You know what I mean?
Okay.
So like there is a benefit to Thor 2. There is no benefit to Iron Man 3 whatsoever.
I kind of felt like I feel like Iron Man 3 was just Tony Stark dealing with the events that happened in the Avengers. It was him getting through all his problems because he was kind of like, oh, I'm invincible, I can never lose, I can never die, blah 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 blah. And then Avengers happen and he's like
super drunk.
Yeah, and then Avengers happens and he's just kind of like, oh yeah, I was going to die. I almost died. I was going to die.
The only thing good about Iron Man 2 was the end credit scene where he's spewing off his guts to Hulk.
Okay, well, what about Iron Man 3? That's what I'm talking about. That's what
I meant. Iron Man 3. That's what I meant. Iron Man 3.
Oh, Iron Man 3. Okay.
That's the only thing useful about Iron Man 3, and that could have been done in like a DVD short or an extra.
And I watched
Avengers.
that.
No,
I
guys.
did watch
Clearly, this needed to be just a YouTube behind the scenes thing. It's just Tony Hawk. Tony Hawk.
Yeah, we fucked up a lot tonight, y'all, but stick with us. Iron Man 3 still stinks, and I stand by it.
What about
I
you?
kind of want to see Tony Hawk like Hulk Skater or something now.
What movie would you have removed, Andy?
I think I would agree with Thor 2. I've never been a huge Thor fan in general, but I definitely feel like that was the weakest, especially in terms of telling some of Thor's story and, more importantly, actually dealing with the characterization of Thor. I just, felt like it was a pretty weak movie all around. The other one I'd probably get rid of just because I'm not a huge fan of it was Ant-Man.
Really?
Yeah.
I don't know.
So
Ant-Man didn't
I
bother
think
me too
I think with Ant-Man the bar was so low with me when going into Ant-Man because I'm like, what can you really do with Ant-Man without the Avengers? But I came in going, wow, that was really good. I liked it. I mean, instead of giving like a D, it came out with like a B-, and I'm like, I guess that was to me.
Like, I think a lot of that has to do with that they did an amazing job with the CGI in Ant-Man, and I can't knock them on that, but I just wasn't. I've never been a huge fan of Ant-Man on the whole. I feel like that movie it doesn't really have any huge tie-ins for me, as far as at least Infinity War is concerned.
Right. Okay. No, I get
And
it.
so if we're looking at this from a let's trim the fat of movies that don't really like have a huge impact on the Infinity War movie, and you know what, I could be wrong. Maybe they'll do some really cool tie-in.
Yeah, well,
But-
Ant-Man and Wasp comes out in July, and
Right.
from what I've read, everything's all speculation, but it's the aftermath of what happened in the Avenger movie. So it's kind of like you get to see the what happened afterwards without having any of the Avengers really be in it, but you just see Ant-Man and Wasp dealing with what went down in the other movie.
That
that's
could be
kind of
pretty
exciting.
interesting.
You know what I would really cut from the MCU?
What?
Kat Dennings.
Oh my God.
But I think Ant-Man was meant for Civil War more so than Infinity Wars.
Probably. I just mean
Only because that
like,
movie was a direct tie into Civil War. And I think what Marvel makes a lot of throwaway movies to place people in certain spots for like the next event. And I think Ant-Man was one of those things where, and I like this because DC does a poor job of it, where they just stick characters wherever for the purpose of whatever. Marvel will give you a movie that may not necessarily be a strong movie, but it's to give you backstory and credence to a certain character. So then when you see
and
them,
it does build
whether it's a
continuity as well.
So whether you see them for a small blurb in another movie, you know who they are and why they're there. And I do appreciate Marvel for it.
Yeah.
All right.
I get
Okay.
that.
So
I'm
I'm
just
gonna
saying,
have to,
like,
I'm gonna have to cut in. I get it though.
Oh.
Yes. So yeah. Okay. No, that's fine. Just looking out. What's going on? Final question, because trying to get this in within time. What is the strongest Marvel movie or what is the strongest movie in the MCU?
Civil War.
Civil War.
Jess?
I'm new to all this. I mean, I guess. I don't know.
Out of all the movies that you saw, okay, from the past 3 movies that you saw, which one was the stronger one? We can hear you.
I know you can. You know what, Kevin? Go away. I was asking CJ, alright?
The last 2 movies you saw were
Thor
Doctor
Rag-
Strange,
yeah.
Doctor Strange, Spider-Man: Homecoming, and Thor Ragnarok.
Yes. Okay.
So out of those 3, which one was the best?
But why? So, I'm getting threatened here. I really like Spider-Man.
Sure, you imagine you're about the disappearing Jessica.
And I did really like Thor Ragnarok too, because it was funny. Like, there was just so many funny
Yeah.
moments in it. I like that, so
Okay.
I'll
No,
take
that-
those
So
too.
Kevin,
But
Kevin, I'm
story-wise, I do
curious.
get that Civil War was really, really good too. And
Okay.
without watching all the other movies, it wouldn't have made sense to me. But after catching up and watching all the other movies, like, it made sense, which made it better, because the one time I tried to watch it, I was like, what is going on? I don't understand. This is nonsense. Goodbye. having all the other movies makes everything make sense now, so.
All right. That works.
So Kevin.
Okay.
I know we're crunched for time, but I want to know your opinion on that question as well.
Oh, the strongest Marvel movie?
Yeah.
Oh, by far, definitely Civil War. That's the only movie I actually bought was Civil War. I think
That's pretty telling. Pretty telling.
it is.
gesture.
I mean, I really loved Civil War, but Jess doesn't remember Civil War, so I'm not gonna bully her into saying Civil War.
No,
so
no,
I just said,
thought it was funny that like CJ and I said it unanimously just at the same time. So I just wanted your opinion on it as well.
Any Marvel fan knows that Civil War was the best Marvel movie by far. And people that are jumping on the Black Panther bandwagon right now,
Didn't even watch any of the other Marvel movies.
They need to go back. Ooh, technical difficulty.
They need to go back to Wakanda.
They need to,
No, don't say that.
they need to go back and watch Civil War so you can really appreciate,
Civil War
that
is practically Black Panther's origin anyway,
Mhm.
so I
Basically.
don't understand how you would hate it. Or not say it's the best, I should say. Alright, well, this talk is going to have to end here. I think we might have to do the rest talk on like a podcast or something, but we'll have to iron out those details next time. So click on the next video for the Avengers Infinity War, and take it easy, true believers.